Welcome to the Builders Podcast, episode 138. Joel Solomon, Unlocking Financial Freedom, the Power of Mindset, Process, and Belief. Before we jump into this episode, please subscribe to this podcast, hit that notification bell if you're on YouTube, and after a listen, please give us a thumbs up, like, and share, if we've earned it. With your help, we can reach more people and deliver these valuable from the trenches lessons to those that need it. Enjoy the episode. Hello, everybody. Welcome to another The Builders. Today, we are joined by Joel Solomon. Welcome to the show, Joel.
Thanks so much for having me, Matt. It's extreme pleasure and honor to be here. Thank you.
It's all our honor, or something like that. Joel is the founder, the owner of Solomor. Did I say that right? Management. He educates people about money. It's going to be really interesting. If you're interested in money, I think a lot of us are. This might be a really good episode for you to stick around for. And he's a prosperity coach. So a lot of interesting insights, I'm sure, are coming our way today. But excited to talk to you, Joel. The first thing we do when the first time we have somebody on the podcast here is we like to dig into your story, your journey, your origin story, where you came from, and how you ended up to where you are today, doing the awesome things you're doing. That could be the short version, the long version, or somewhere in between. Whatever you think is insightful and interesting. Just talk to, what's influenced you, what that journey's looked like, and then we'll see where it takes us.
Awesome. So thank you again, Matt, for having me. First of all, I just like to point out that what's most important for me is my daughters. And I have two daughters, Lauren and Morgan. They were just born yesterday, but Lauren's in Syracuse University. 19, and Morgan's 17, on the way to being a doctor. And my company name is named after them. Solomor, Lore for Lauren, More for Morgan.
That's awesome.
And I thank you. And I started being an entrepreneur in 2012 when I launched my hedge fund. And if you had asked me back 20 years before then, in 1992, Joel, what's your dream job? I would have said money manager. Either a mutual fund or hedge fund. That was my dream. And I reached out to a lot of money managers on Wall Street, and they gave me doubt. Massive doubt.
Wait, hold on a second. I have to pause you already. So first of all, why money? Why money manager? Is this just something you were interested in, or somebody influenced you to think about doing that?
Great question. Well, I was working at an insurance company, programming.
Coding. Okay.
But in the evenings and weekends, I was analyzing and investing in stocks on my own. And the reason why I started doing that is a couple of years earlier, I was introduced to a friend of a friend who was a financial planner, financial advisor, and he said, I got a great idea. Give me some money. Black Warrior Resources. It's a great company. It's going to double at least, maybe go up 10 times. Just give me how much free money do you have? I was 24 years old. I said,
$5.
So he said,
1,000. Good.
Yeah. He said, yeah, send it over. And so the stock was trading at $1. We bought 1,000 shares, and within a year, that $1,000 was worth $0. And I realized that I could probably do better than losing 100% of my money in a couple of years. And so I started analyzing. I'm a I'm a math guy, statistics major in college, and knew a little bit.
Ah, okay.
And friends of mine were dabbling, and so I started analyzing and investing and coming up with a methodology to invest in stocks on my own. And so that's why it was a dream of mine, because it was a hobby of mine. And I figured if I could align my hobby and my career, that wouldn't be work. It would be fun. It would be play.
Yes. Yes. That's
That's why.
awesome. And then so you had some connections then, because the other thing that struck me is I just reached out to all these people on Wall Street, and and
Well,
asked them
I didn't
other money
really.
managers, and
I was working as an actuary. And so, Matt, I don't know if you know the difference between an actuary and an accountant, but an actuary looks at
you're gonna
his
tell me.
feet when he talks to you, an accountant looks at your feet when they talk to you.
Ah, okay.
They say an actuary is an accountant with charisma.
Gotcha. Okay.
But I'm not the typical actuary, and I did go through all the exams, and I was spending my days programming, coding, and
Mm,
so I did have so whenever you passed 5 exams, you got this big book of all the actuaries in the United States. So I just went through the book. They were sorted by company name and by industry. And so I went through it and I found some actuaries on Wall Street and I said, how'd you get there? What'd you do? And I got a lot
nice.
of rejection, a lot of doubt. Everyone said, Joel, you got a great job. Don't screw it up. Just stay there.
Really?
So, so right now I teach hashtag doubt the doubt.
Doubt the doubt.
Have faith in the dream. Don't have faith in your doubt. So I had faith in my dream, but doubted myself because so many people were doubting me along the way. But I did find one actuary who told me his path to Wall Street. And so I followed it mostly.
Hmm.
And 15 years later, I was working at Citigroup as a hedge fund manager.
Wow. So you found somebody with the path that you could at least. It was a proven path. You knew the steps to get there. Maybe it's not perfect, but it gave you a target to
Gave
go
me a
after.
target,
Yeah.
he said, in order to be a really great investor, it'd be helpful to know credit analysis, to
Hmm.
understand how a company is credit worthy. And so I went to work at Moody's Investor Service, which is a credit rating agency, and rated the bonds of insurance companies for a few years. And
Wow.
then I worked at a reinsurance company doing private investments, private equity investments to learn that. And then circuitous route, but I got to a small hedge fund as an analyst and then ultimately to Citi as a hedge fund manager, managing at the peak $700 million. dollars.
Wow. So explain to those that don't know what a hedge fund is.
So there's all types of hedge funds. What my hedge fund that I worked on at Citi, and then when I had my own hedge fund, we were betting some stocks were going to go up, and we bet other stocks were going to go down. And you're hedged because if the market goes up a lot, because you have some stocks you're betting that are going to go down, you're not going to go up as much as the market. But if the market goes down a lot, you're also not going to go down as much because you're betting some stocks are going to go
You're
down.
hedging your bets.
You're hedging your bets.
Oh, that's awesome. That's a good
So in
explanation of it.
2008, when the stock market went down 40%, and financial companies, the only companies I was invested in, were down 57%, we managed to make a little bit of money because we were hedged.
That's so cool. That's so cool. Yeah, I'm familiar with some of this stuff, so I'll inject my background a little bit here, going way back to the '90s, in my late 20s, aging myself a little, but I was actually in insurance as well for about 10 years, insurance agent. So that's boring, but I didn't get to play with numbers as much as you did, but I dealt with people that dealt with the numbers. But one of the things that we were getting into is more financial stuff. We were thinking about getting into more financial stuff. So I was actually taking my Series 7 at some point and working through that. I think it was going to be Series 6, then I did Series 7. I never finished it because life, but I did it. So I knew I at least have that foundation background. Learn the
Awesome.
terminology. Probably most of it's fell out of my head, but yeah, that's so I can appreciate all that, and done some investing over the years myself. So, but it's that's very interesting. So you followed this path, doing it. You got your helping with the hedge fund. You have your own. I don't know if you talked about having your own hedge fund. Did we get there yet?
Not, no, we
Somehow,
didn't
somehow
get
you
there
ended
yet,
up.
but so I was working at Citi, and I might still be there today, but there was a law that was passed that said banks can't own hedge funds. So we were all laid off, my whole division,
Oh,
which actually gave me the kick in the butt to start my own fund. So in 2012, when I was laid off, I started reaching out to in, potential investors, and two insurance companies orally agreed to give me money. So I went off and decided to
no
hire the
kidding.
required service providers, lawyers, accountants, fund administrator, auditor, compliance company, prime broker, real estate space. And I moved into prime real estate space on 54th and Madison Avenue in Manhattan. I felt like I'd
No
arrived.
kidding.
And then I
Wow,
called
it
up
sounds
these
like you did.
potential I called up these potential investors, and they both backed out. I had no
You're
pipeline.
kidding.
I had no potential investors. I thought I was all set. So this was the end of December of
Oh my gosh.
2012. So what I
And how does
teach,
that how does that at that time like affect your mindset? I mean, you have this dream, you think you've arrived, and it just all comes crashing down. Like, were you mentally prepared for that at this point in your life? Did you read Think and Grow Rich yet? Or anything like that?
I had in
Yeah.
fact read Think or Rich 8 times by 2012, December,
Mm,
and I was reading it in December when I got the news.
yeah.
And so, what I teach my clients now, my prosperity coaching clients, is to act as if what you want to happen has already happened. So, how did I do that? I hired the analyst that I was going to hire, even though we didn't have any money. We had cash flow, it was just cash outflow. All the cash was going out, there was nothing coming in. So, I
That's never a
hired the
good thing.
analyst. I continued to interview for a chief financial officer. I did so, and then when I hired the analyst, we had morning meetings as if we were invested. Hey, Sean, what are you thinking about today? We every day 8:30 in the morning we had these calls, and I told him don't come into the office until we actually have raised the money. So stay at home because I was paying per seat, so I saved a little money. So I had my company work from home, WFH, 10 years before anybody heard WFH. I was working, all my company was working from home except for me. And so we would have a call
Nice.
every day at 8:30 to talk about stocks. And then we would go to conferences, and we didn't tell the conference leaders that we didn't have any money to invest yet, and we met with the companies. And then we called up the companies that we think about investing in and asked them the tough questions. And then we did something even more quote unquote crazy. I put together a spreadsheet and I calculated the amount of money we were making every day as if we were invested. Now, I didn't just do that. I did go out and network. I did bang the phones and talk to everybody I knew and say, hey, we're about to launch. Anyone who's interested in investing. And within 30 days, I had a good meeting with a potential investor. 60 days after that, we had a signed written agreement from them. And 60 days after that, we had launched. And I will tell you, I believe that by acting as if we had the money, we got the money.
That's powerful. That's what we'd call manifestation, right? So, like, you have
Absolutely.
this vision and you commit to it and you act as if you're going to get this, and it manifests. That's a huge lesson.
And the other
Yeah.
thing you had asked me, like in December, how I was feeling, if I was prepared. Now, this was a dream I had for 20 years, and I was like this
Mm.
close. I really,
Right.
like, I felt like I could touch it. And then it felt like it had evaporated, right? And a lot of times when you're moving towards a dream, you get pretty close. In fact, they talk about this in Think and Grow Rich by Napoleon Hill, that the guy who went out from the East Coast to San Francisco for the gold, and he dug and he dug and he found a vein, and he got so excited, and he went back and he got all the tools, he raised some money, went back to San Francisco, and he was digging, and then all of a sudden they had enough money that they had raised just to pay back their friends and family, and then the vein stopped, and they dug a little to the right, left, forward, back, couldn't find the vein, sold all their tools to a junk man, who then hired an engineer who said the vein was broken, and if you dig three 3 yards to the northeast, it'll continue, which it did, and the junk man became a multi millionaire. And so the idea is, don't stop when you're this close to the dream. Continue to pursue it and believe and act as if it's happening,
And
and then
also
it will happen.
innovate and think of creative ideas or other ways to maybe approach that problem, which is also part of
Yeah,
that lesson
continue
too.
to
Yeah.
go at it in many different ways. So I've done that in this business. So I started my own hedge fund. I raised the money. We launched, and your question was, how did I get from there to here? So I just coach now. I'm not a hedge fund manager. I don't manage money. I shut down my hedge fund. But in December 2015, I went to a personal development course. It was a 3-day course. There was a guest speaker speaking for 1 hour about stocks and stock options. And when he spoke about options in particular, he made it sound easy. He said, you don't need much time, you don't need much money. This is how the rich people get rich, and options are essentially risk free. And I was sick to my stomach. I had people tapping me on the shoulder, whisper in my ear, Joel, does this make sense? Are options really risk free? It was day 2 of the conference, so they knew I was a hedge fund manager. So we
Yeah.
went, after he was done, I was polite. After he was done, we went out of the auditorium. I had a circle of people around me. I said, please don't do this. He doesn't know any of you individually. He doesn't know your net worth or earnings or cash flow or risk tolerance. And most importantly, he doesn't know your belief that you could become rich using options. I went home that night. I couldn't sleep. The guy was in my head. 4 o'clock in the morning, 3:34. And I realized if I could ever get up the courage to speak on a stage, I could be authentic, tell them the truth about money and not lie to them, and be of service. And at 4:30, it hit me. I jumped out of bed. I quickly got dressed. I was in my office in Midtown Manhattan before the sun rose. And I sent an email to my investors telling them I'm giving them the money back. I'm shutting down my fund. I figured out my true purpose on earth: to help people become financially free.
And that is a fantastic pivot to a whole new life and a whole new outlook, and but all that past experience led you to that point. So you wouldn't trade all that for the world, because now you have the wisdom and the ability to really, really help people and steer them away from bad advice.
Absolutely.
So
I'm a
that's
chartered financial analyst. I'm an actuary. I know about insurance pretty well. I know about different asset classes like stocks. I also,
yeah,
at my hedge fund and at Citi, we invested in bonds as well. So I know about different asset classes. In fact, in my second book, The 9 Money Rules Millionaires Use, I have a proprietary 5-step stock screen that I give away. And I also have a 7-step real estate screen that I give away in that book. So I partnered with a guy I know who's an expert on real estate, and I picked his brain, and we put together a chapter that I think is one of the best real estate chapters out there, so that somebody who just wants to learn can start from scratch and use this technique and find good properties to invest. So the point being that, yes, all that wisdom that I accumulated throughout my career is beneficial for my clients. And what I say is, you know, my dream took 20 years to achieve. So now, because I'm coaching you, my long road can lead to your shortcut.
yeah, right. And I think, and it's such a, it's a brilliant path. And I say brilliant because, well, I'm in a different space than you are. I'm in web design development. But I feel like, you never know where you're headed. And you're like, you're going through, who knows what stage someone listening to this is in. You could be at the early stages of this or later. But all the things, your failures, your ups and downs and all the work you put in, and you're following a passion, you follow a path, and maybe it doesn't end up the way you thought, or other ideas come along. But it was the same for me in web design development. Like I have 20 years online that, I leveraged all that knowledge from doing internet marketing all the way to doing freelancing, then working for a company as a web developer and growing teams and doing all this stuff. And now today, and now 5 years into my agency, got a lot of experience. And like you said, I love that idea of like, now you have, when somebody employs you to help them with finance, to teach them about financing and money, they're pulling from you. You can condense all that and save them so much time. Like when I'm talking to somebody about a project or whatever, I have all that experience going back, where I'm talking to somebody in marketing because I have marketing experience. Even though I'm doing web design, I can translate that a little easier. And yeah, so like experience is so important. But I think also I see this, I hear this story. It's very common, where people have gone on this journey and they've done all this stuff. And then all of a sudden one day it's like this aha moment where something transpires. You're like, you were sitting there listening to this person and you stayed up all night and it was bugging you. And you're like, this is my calling. Everything's prepared me for this moment. And now this is what I want to do. And I want to help people. Where do you get, because you're not just helping yourself. You're all this. Maybe there was times in your life you're like, this is all me. I'm gonna make money. That's my dream, to make money. But now somewhere there's something in there too, where you really have it in you that you want to give back and you want to help others. Where do you think that comes from? Is that just something that's always been there brewing? You always want to help people, or was this a moment where you saw people hurting, or they would be hurting if they followed that advice? You're like, I need to do this.
Well, it was an extreme case. Right. I think I'm a giving soul to begin with. And, rule number 5 in the 9 money rules millionaires use is giving. So, sorry, rule number 6 in the 9 money. Rule number 5 is being grateful. Rule number 6 is giving. And so I talk a lot about giving. In fact, when I made a ton of money at Citi, what I did was I fully funded both of my kids' college education. I bought a condo for my parents. I gave a lot to charities. And that was 2009. So, but yes, that crystallized, that moment at that conference crystallized it, that it was these people, it was hurting my heart to know that there are people. And then I went to a lot of seminars. I purposely went to seminars after that people were giving on real estate or on other asset classes. And there's, 200, 500, 1,000 people in a room being pitched real estate. And look, some percentage of those people will become rich using real estate. But I will tell you, not everyone in the room is supposed to become rich using real estate. It's, what do you believe? What are you interested in? What's your passion? And I don't want to bash any asset class at all, because yes, people will become rich using real estate. In fact, in part 2, chapter 6, we say, can real estate make you rich? It's a rhetorical question in the book. I do say in the first sentence of that chapter, if you don't believe real estate can make you rich, skip this chapter.
Yeah.
Because rule number 1, by the way, in the 9 money rules millionaires use is, what do you believe? When you believe, it's critical. What you believe is critical. So, all that is really important to understand. And look, you can become rich in business, your own business. There's, many examples of, you can like these people or dislike these people, but the truth is Elon Musk, Jeff Bezos, Bill Gates, Steve Jobs became massively rich creating a business, right? And
Yeah.
so business is one way to create massive wealth. But for you, it could be stocks, it could be options, it could be real estate, it could be bonds, it could be crypto. What I do when I coach people is I don't push my belief onto them. I want them to figure out, because I've had people come to me and say, I don't know. Like, I don't know this stuff. So I can
Hmm.
teach you all these different asset classes and say, okay, what resonates with you? What are you interested in? But
Yeah.
not coming to you with, you have to buy options, you have to buy stocks. That doesn't make any sense to
But
me.
then you said something earlier. You said it's more personal. It's got to be
It's individuals.
it's individual. Yeah.
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 So I do one-on-one coaching. I do membership. I have a membership, and in the membership, it's a series of videos that people get each month over a 6-month period, plus 20 guest experts. But the idea is, okay, you'll learn a series of videos about successfully planning and expanding your business.
Hmm.
You'll learn about stocks, getting comfortable investing in stocks 101, getting comfortable investing in real estate 101. You'll learn all these different types of things, and then you can decide for yourself where you want to go.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's
You go.
not it's not me preaching a particular method or asset class.
I think. Well, I think what you're saying is crystal clear to me. In terms of it's like business. It's like anything. Somebody can tell you need to go because you see it all over. Go on YouTube. You need to invest in real estate, but there's so much more to that. There's the actual getting real estate. Like if depending on how you're investing in real estate, what type of real estate, you also have to be built for that. You have to have a passion for it, like anything else. You have
Right.
to have the
Be
mind
interested.
for it. I know my father. We talked about my father a little bit before the episode, but I don't know why I'm bringing him up today. Just thinking about him, but he actually had real estate for years, probably like 30 years. I don't know, and he had like small, I don't know, like apartments and things like that, residential stuff, and you know, I remember him getting out of it, and he was so relieved because there was a lot of other stuff. It was yeah, it was great to invest in real estate, but there's all this other stuff like cleaning up after the tenants after they leave and things like that.
Yeah.
Trying to get a manager to help manage it. But there's all those other things that you have to be also good at and want to do.
Right.
You have
Yeah.
to
It's you,
even stocks. You have to want to, you
right.
know, sit and study stocks.
Right. And people come to me and I'll teach them my 5-step stock screen, and then we go advanced, teaching them price targets and other advanced topics. But they come to me and say, Joel, I wanna learn from you because you made money in 2008 and 2009. You know, and so great. I'd love to teach you because I want to empower them. I'll
Hmm.
teach them for 3 months or 6 months or a year, and then that's it. Like I'm not, you don't have to pay me anything ever again,
Yeah.
and you get access to me for life. So if you want a year from now to ask me a question about anything related to stocks or money or manifestation, anything, you just come on my weekly call and you ask me a
Yeah.
question. So I empower people to become financially free by learning it themselves. And I believe you should take full responsibility for your life, all aspects of your life, and not just some aspects.
Yeah. So what? So you have a book. You just showed at least one book, 3 books. Um, what was that? So I'm curious about that. Like, when did you decide to write a book, and when did you write a book, and how was that process, and deciding what to write, and then kind of explain how you get it, how you got that done and stuff. I'm curious. 'Cause I haven't written a book. I used to write ebooks. That's a whole nother story, and it's not. There was nothing in like actual paper form, but so I've done some content in the past. But I'm curious, like what that was like, and why you decided that was something important for you to do.
So this is my first book, Mindful Money Management, and I realized when I shut down my hedge fund that it'd be helpful as a coach to be more credible by having a book out there. And I had written a monthly investor letter to my investors for 3 years. They were about 10 pages each. So 36 months, 360 pages, I have a book. I'm done. Just put it together in a book. And so I did that. And I said, this is a little dry. Maybe I'll like each month, January of 2013 when I started that was the first month of the first year I managed money. I'll talk a little bit about what was going on in my life that month. And I did that, a paragraph or a page in front of each month because each investor letter was January, February, March of that year. It was, it was a calendar, it was continuous by time. And so then I was done. I sent it out to a few of my friends and some family members, and I got consistent feedback.
Good or bad?
This is crap. Don't let anyone else see this. And I got feedback from one woman who is a best-selling author who said, you do have some really interesting content in here. Put the investor letters in the appendix. And what you wrote before, for each month is your book. And I'm like, no, it isn't. It's the investor letters. And she said, no, it's not. Nobody cares about what was going on in the stock market or these individual stocks in February of 2013 or March of 2014. Nobody cares. So I said, okay. She said, here's two options. Put it in the appendix or put it on your website, but it's not the book. So she said, just sit on this was like, I started writing in the beginning of 2017. I shut down my hedge fund in 2016. This was like June of 2017. And so she said, sit on this thoughts for a few weeks and then like, let's get on another call. So I just like let it go for 3 weeks. And I said, you know what? She's right. She's a best-selling author. She knows much more than I do.
Yeah.
So I put the investor letters in the appendix, and I had about 5,000 words. And you may not know, but a book is around 45 to 55,000 words. So I spent the summer of 2017 writing again. I wrote a little bit, but I spent 90, 120 days. And she said, like, expand on, we had the call, and she said, expand on this concept, you have some really great ideas in here. Just like put together stories, put together your experience. And so I did. And so and then eventually I'm like, you know what? The investor letters, it's 250 pages. I'm just putting it on my website. It's not the book. And so I just referenced them in the book and took them out. And that became Mindful Money Management, which was a memoir of my days throughout my career, but mostly as a hedge fund manager.
Very interesting.
And the process, I self-published. I got help from her and other people in my network who had published books already, self-published books, and I asked, how do you do a book cover? She actually said to me, so I got done again probably in September of 2017, and I sent it to her, and she's like, oh, this is good. This is good. And she said, so who are you getting testimonials from? And I'm like, testimonials? She's like, Joel, you need to write down a list of 20 people who you would love to write about, talk about your book. And so she said, pick money managers, pick people in the hedge fund industry, pick people in the spiritual industry, because, I quoted Napoleon Hill and other spiritual books and Mike Dooley. And so I reached out to Mike Dooley, who best-selling author of Infinite Possibilities. I reached out to some CEOs of insurance companies. I reached out to equity analysts who I knew from my days as a hedge fund manager. And I got 5 testimonials, and that helped. And So yeah, so Mindful Money Management became a bestseller the first weekend it was out, and I tell people to read a couple of books if you're going to self-publish. One is called How to Market a Book. There's really a book called How to Market a Book by Julia Penn. And that's no pun intended. Her real last name is Penn. and and then there's another book, Book in a Box,
Book in a
which is
box.
basically the process to write a book quickly in like 90 or 120 days. So those two books I recommend, and that helped me write Mindful Money Management. And I will tell you, it was good, but my next two books are much, much better. I learned how to write better. I learned from feedback. And the reason I
Yeah.
wrote my second book, The Nine Money Rules Millionaires Use, is because I got feedback from my first book, which was, Joel, there's a rule book in here of like what you did to overcome, for example, the lack of investors in December of 2012. How, what can you put a playbook together of success? And I was like, yeah, that's easy. And so I went through the book, and it had most of those rules in there between the lines and not really enumerated and expressed. And I'd say five or six of the rules were in Mindful Money Management. I just came out up with a few more based on my thoughts as a hedge fund manager, and that became the Nine Money Rules Millionaires Use. And that's my signature book. I have a 9-week course. I teach on that. I have an online
Yeah.
course based on that book, and so that's my signature course that I teach, the Nine Money Rules Millionaires Use.
There's so many layers to this. So many layers I could dig into, unfold. Uh, Number one, thank you for sharing the process, and I love the fact, number one of the layers is getting that feedback, and getting somebody, having somebody to help you, an expert out there that can, and then you onboarding those lessons and swallowing your pride or whatever that is. Like, I don't need to listen to I know this is good. But hearing somebody give you that harsh feedback, sometimes that's what we need to hear. It is more than anything, because look where it's led you. But then all the lessons from that first book, so that you can apply to the next, and just going through that process. Sometimes we learn the best by just doing.
Mm-hmm.
And and so, but overall, though, there's another layer. Now this book has established you as you know what you're talking about. You're an authority on this topic, and you can create that membership. You can create other materials and coaching and all this, and using that as the foundation. And so you're more credible when somebody talks to you, and then building a system of rules and stuff that you can teach from. It's a good framework. So I mean, that's powerful stuff. So now, now that you have pretty much established yourself, it sounds like you're doing well and you're helping a lot of people. Um, and we were talking about earlier too that you had a goal, like you wanted to help so many people, right? Was it 1 million people? 1 million people do
Well,
something,
let's
million
start
dollars or
with
something.
my goal right now, and it can be 1 million. My goal is to help at least 100,000 people become
100,000
financially free.
financially
So
free,
it
and this
could,
is
and
this
I
is
don't, I don't.
yeah.
So sorry to interrupt, Matt. So
No,
it
it's okay.
doesn't matter how it happens. So I'm not attached to my book selling 1 million copies. And what I teach is letting go and not attaching to any one particular methodology or client. If it's the book, great. If it's my membership, great. If it's one-on-one coaching, if it's a group course, if it's the online course, I don't really care. I just want people to know that they have the ability themselves to become financially free. It's mindset and process, right? You can have the best mindset, but if you
Mindset
don't
and
have any process
process.
in place, yeah, it's mindset and process. You could have the best mindset, but if you don't have any process, if you're a life coach or a yoga teacher, meditation teacher, or a shaman, or an artist, if you could have the best mindset, but you don't have a process, it doesn't work. And if you could have the best process, and I'm coaching somebody right now who just wants to learn the process, and I keep on going back to mindset, and he just wants to learn the process, and I'm like, dude, you got to have an excellent mindset, because if you don't have the excellent mindset, you can put the process in place, but you're not attracting the abundance and prosperity that you were born to create.
Yeah.
And
Yeah,
so
there's a
we
lot.
got to, yeah.
Go ahead. Yeah.
No, I was just going to say, and that's critical. Having, like, using the techniques in the book, believing, trusting your intuition, being grateful, giving, practicing. I practice what I preach, right? So I
Hmm.
do this stuff every day. I give 30 minutes prosperity coaching free to the world. Anybody who's listening to this,
Hmm.
watching this, who wants 30 minutes free, go to my website, right? And
Yeah.
and who knows what could happen in those 30 minutes? Like, and there's no
Yeah.
obligation to do anything else. I've had people manifest $6,000 in 3 weeks after that 30 minutes, never came back to me again. I'm like, awesome. Like,
Yeah.
but I want you to become financially free. So, like, okay, that's a good step. But
Yes.
you could binge on my YouTubes. I have 624 YouTube videos. Just binge. Don't go to Netflix.
624.
Uh huh.
Jeez.
So you
Well,
can
you definitely
binge on
have
my YouTube
lots of
channel,
different paths. Yes. No,
and
I
that's all
just want to take
free.
just a
Yeah,
brief
yeah.
second, right? So mindset, I'm still stuck on the mindset and process. I get stuck sometimes on things. And because it really, I have a parallel. I have a parallel. So on my blog, which I don't know who reads it, but on my blog, I changed kind of my content focus this past year. And it's teams and processes and the intersection between those two. Because I feel like, kind of like you're talking about here with mindset and process, one can't really live without the other, or you're not, the two have to work together for you to succeed with it. And I think it's fascinating. You got that kind of same, yeah, yeah. I mean, people get stuck there. Just and plus coaches out there that are just teaching mindset. But you're missing this other piece, or vice versa. Um, so where I'd like to land. So you have all these rules. I'm wondering if you could like pick one of these rules and speak to it just for like a couple minutes and maybe pull out the some a great insight or a tip or something that somebody can apply. I know we like in our intro conversation you talked about splurging. I don't know if that's one of the rules. So is a splurging a rule or is that part of one of the rules?
It's not. I don't
It's
really
not.
go into. Well, rule number 7 is budgeting.
Budgeting.
So it's not. So that's the closest to like savings and splurging. But
Hmm.
I'd prefer to talk about one of the more spiritual rules, because, again, if you don't have those first 6 in place, I teach DIY investing, which is rule number 8. But don't do DIY investing if you don't believe. Rule number 1. So so we can talk about belief. Belief
Talk
is
about it.
critical, because if I had a client just recently and he said to me, I want to earn 100% return in my investment. And I said, do you believe it? He said, yes. I'm like, okay, let's do it. Now another client will come to me and say, that's impossible.
Hmm.
Well,
Mm-hmm.
then they're not going to earn 100%. It's like, it's out of the realm of possibility. So, I had there. Here's just a simple example that's in the book, and I don't not recommending or not recommending crypto, but two guys bought Bitcoin November 27, 2017. The first guy did his research. He read all the white papers. He knew he was going to make money. The second guy, he got a tip from a buddy of his who said, dude, you got to get involved. Now, if you asked each of them what their belief level was that they were going to make money, from 1 to 10, where 1 is massive doubt and 10 is absolute faith, the first guy was a 10. The second guy was a 1. Massive doubt. They both bought Bitcoin $8,000 November 27th, 2017. 3 days later, Bitcoin's up at 10,000. And the first guy says, see, I told you I was going to make money on Bitcoin. The second guy says, I hope it doesn't go back down. And a few days later, it's back down at 8,000. And the first guy says, this is the best buying opportunity out there, and he buys more. The second guy, he sells. He's so grateful he didn't lose money on Bitcoin. 3 weeks later, Bitcoin is at its all-time high up to that point, $19,500. The first guy sells then. He's made almost 250% on his money in less than 1 month. Point of the story is, know what your level of belief is in each investment before you get involved. Or if you're already involved, write it down now. Because if you're not a 7, 8, 9, or 10, you're going to be buying when you should be selling and selling when you should be buying.
I feel like this is a lesson I could have learned at one point or time. Investing in stocks.
Or in anything.
I won't say who the company is out there, but there's a company I'm like, and I sold that. If I wouldn't have. Awesome. Well, thank you for sharing that lesson, and thank you for sharing your story and kind of that journey. On all that stuff, there's so many layers. I'm the type of person that could just like, I just would like to dig into everything. But we can't do that in one episode. So maybe we'll have you back someday again.
Yeah, I'd love to be back.
But Joel, if somebody wants to learn more about you, you already kind of mentioned you got some stuff out there. If they want to learn more about you, they want to catch up with you on social media, where do you hang out? Where's the best, where can they connect with you online?
Well, my website is Salaurmore. Again, my company name named after my daughter, so it's SALAURMOR.com. I'm on LinkedIn. I'm on Instagram and TikTok, Joel Prosperity Solomon. I mentioned you can binge on me on YouTube as well, but I do a reel on TikTok and Instagram every day for the last hundreds of days. So 1-minute reels, you can get some pretty nice content on lots of different things related to money, investing, manifesting, money mindset. It's all out there for you.
Okay, I'll see you all there because I'm going to be definitely digging into more of Joel's stuff. So no doubt about it. All right, thanks everybody. Till next time.
Thank you so much, Matt.
That's all for today's episode. I hope you enjoyed that. Again, please subscribe if you haven't already and give us a thumbs up if we deserve it. If you want to comment on this episode's page, provide me with requests on topics for future episodes, or inquire about being a guest, please find your way to thebuilders.fm. You can contact me there or add a comment under these show notes. Now a word from our sponsor, my agency, Unified Web Design. We build custom websites, features, we maintain websites, we work with agencies to fulfill their web design and development needs, and more. If you are interested in our services or are looking for an agency to work with as a partner to build awesome sites for your clients, feel free to reach out to me at unifiedwebdesign.com. There's a handy contact me link at the top. Fill out that form and it will open a ticket, and that ticket will find its way to me. Thanks for joining me today. We'll see you next time.